Hey, it's an honor. It's a pleasure to be down here. Thanks for inviting me down, Chris. It's being part of this Jerry Week it's an honor. Thank you.
You were in Chicago for the 50th anniversary final concerts. I want to get to that, but I would like to start the conversation at the same question I asked Dennis McNally earlier this week, the same question I asked Mayor Krause earlier this week. It's 20 years on. Jerry has been gone from us. Yeah. What do you miss most about Jerry?
Well, I feel, Jerry was a brother. I mean, he was a brother and a friend, I think, to each and every Deadhead out there. I mean, the Grateful Dead did an amazing job. Well, I don't know if it was it was an amazing job of entitling every one of their fans. I mean, empowering them. I mean, everybody that listened to the Grateful Dead and loved the Grateful Dead felt they had some entitlement. Each experience for that person is completely different than the next person's. And the Grateful Dead gave that to them somehow, some way, through the music, through the group, bringing everybody together. It's magic. I don't know the answer to that. I miss the music. I miss Jerry's sound of his guitar. I miss it like I miss a therapy session. I mean, that's what I consider living so far away from where the Grateful Dead played. They played Montana in 1974 in Missoula. Mm-hmm. I was 6 years old. My parents wouldn't give me the car, so I couldn't make that show. But it was an adventure. You'd have to take off. You'd have to gear up and go out and see these 3 days of shows, or maybe one show 800 miles away. And it was like Christmas in the middle of summer. You don't know what you're going to get when you go to a Grateful Dead show. So I miss that part too. There's just so much that you miss. And that's why I think I started the Grateful Dead show on KGLT, was to try to revisit that and revisit as many shows as I possibly can. And that's what we do at the KGLT Grateful Dead show. We play one complete set from the Grateful Dead's long, strange trip.
Well, for those who don't know, you are the host of
yes.
the KGLT
yes.
Grateful Dead show. When does it air, and when can I catch it?
You can catch it Thursday afternoons, actually, today, 3 to 6 p.m. The Grateful Dead show starts at 4. And, like I said, we play one complete set from the Grateful Dead's, long, strange trip. And I do request shows as well. Sometimes I'm not really prepared, didn't really think of a show to put on, or just running late. And that's the best part is I throw out, the request lines are open. Mm-hmm. And instantly, you've got 2 hours of music filled within 5 minutes. The people that listen they know what they want to hear.
Exactly. And, as we were talking off air, I have listened to your show. I don't listen to it often enough. And please, if you have an affinity and are unaware of it, KGLT, a Grateful Dead show hosted by Kenny T, 3 to 6 Thursdays in the studio. What do you think? Because I asked McNally this, and Krause expanded on it with Olden in the Way. Mm-hmm. But what do you think JGB offers a listening experience that the Grateful Dead doesn't?
I think it gave Jerry an avenue to get away from the big crowds. I think he was open. I think he was much more freer with the Garcia band and an Olden in the Way. And I think he really wanted to get away from the machine, the Grateful Dead, the thing that they created. Like in the interview, McNally was talking about, they knew really early on that they had created this, they didn't know what they created, this community, this just beautiful atmosphere to perform their music with fans that come from far and near to experience it. I don't know. I really don't know. I think Garcia was more in his element by himself without the Grateful Dead in the later days.
Yeah, because I'm partial to the Grateful Dead. Well, of course, I like the Grateful Dead. I like JGB, Jerry Garcia band. But I'm particularly drawn, but I have to be in the right mood to listen to his collaborations with David Grisman. But they're not to be overlooked. And with Olden in the Way and Vassar Clemens, that's what the mayor brought to the conversation. Yeah. And I think it's worth underscoring that Jerry ran the gambit from bluegrass to rock and roll,
and everywhere in between. And I'm more of a Phil Zone guy. You'd find me in the Phil Zone more at a Dead show than you would on the Jerry side.
Right.
I think Phil Lesh was the lead guitar player of the Grateful Dead, and as well as Bobby Weir, a unique I mean, there's no rhythm guitar player on the planet like Bobby Weir. He plays rhythm guitar unlike anybody else. And Phil, Bobby, and then Mickey and Billy and Brent and Pigpen were just an amazing avenue for Jerry Garcia to be able to experiment and play. And if, the difference between seeing Trey up there at the 50 shows and watching Jerry is the guys in Chicago, Phil and Bobby, they give Trey one go around at the solo, and if he didn't get it, but you go back, you listen to the Grateful Dead, Jerry went on 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds until it exploded, and the band was an absolute amazing avenue for Garcia to explore his guitar.
And this leads me to thank you for setting it up as a perfect segue. I want to talk about the Chicago shows because you were there.
Yeah.
In a bear suit.
In a bear suit.
Do you want to take a phone call before we take a break? Because I do want to come back to the bear suit.
Sure.
50th.
Sounds great.
It's 406-522-TALK. Caller, thanks for hanging in there. You're on the air. What's your question for Kenny T?
How many shows have you been to, sir?
Me?
Have you done over 120?
I have not. 46 is my number.
Oh,
well, I guess it would be 49 if you considered the Chicago shows. So 49. I almost made my 50.
I guess my sister beat your record.
Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what, I got to make a statement. It was more fun in the parking lot or out in the Outback when they played in Vegas. Who knows how many decades ago? It's been over 20.
I don't know how fun it was in the parking lot in Vegas. I remember a guy getting struck by lightning one time in Vegas. Yeah. I liked it in the show a lot better.
I enjoyed the shows, but although I'm at 2.
At 2.
I was at both Vermont Highgate shows.
Oh, nice. I was at those shows.
Yes. Good. We can talk about the King Sunny Day and Bob Dylan opening.
There you go.
It's 1450 KMMS, 1340 KPRK. My name is Chris Griffin, and this is the song I wanted to start with, the original beginning of our interview here. Because there's a line in the song Scarlet Begonias, strangers meeting strangers just to shake hands.
Yeah.
And that's the way I felt about meeting you. And once again, Kenny T, host of the KGLT Dead Show, is in the studio discussing the music of Jerry Garcia, as well as the Grateful Dead, as they called it quits over 4th of July weekend. And Sunday marks the 20th remembrance of Jerry's passing. But you were at the final 3 shows in Chicago.
I sure was, Chris. And the bear suit that you referring to.
Well, I've seen Facebook photos of you in the bear suit walking through the airport.
I picked up this bear suit a few years ago for a Halloween party down at the filling station. It was called The Night of the Walking Dead, and the bands that were playing that night did Talking Heads the first set and the Grateful Dead the second night, or the second set. So I was down there dancing, and well, anyways, I took the bear suit to Chicago, and getting on the plane in Chicago, Minneapolis to Chicago, I ended up on the wing with, I was surrounded by people from Montana, from Kalispell, Billings, Missoula, and they were all going to the same place I was going. And my overhead bag wouldn't fit in the top, and I had the bear suit with me, and figured I'd pull it out and kind of rest on it and sleep on it the way to Chicago. Well, I got coaxed into a few pictures on the plane with it, and then from the next couple drinks after that, we were coaxed into suiting up and deboarding the plane in Chicago and walking through Midway.
As somebody who was there at the shows, the final 3, did they call it quits, even though they're doing 4 of the members of the band are joining John Mayer this year, which is still, I mean, because they're going to continue to make music.
Sure.
But just not as the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
What are your overall impressions of the shows?
A fantastic community experience. It was unlike any. It was a therapy session, like I said earlier. It was the Deadheads were on their best behavior. There was strangers stopping strangers just to shake their hands. It was a beautiful, beautiful feeling of community, a sense of being, and everybody that was there to have a good time and knew they were going to have a good time.
How did Bruce Hornsby, who was sitting in on keyboards, along with Trey Anastasio, obvious replacements for Pigpen and Brent Marland on keyboards, and Jerry Garcia was, of course, replaced by Trey. As a longtime fan and someone who is much more learned of the music of the Grateful Dead than I am, how do you feel that they represented the band and those musical positions.
I think they did a fantastic job. Bruce Hornsby and Jeff Giamatti, both on the keyboards, I think were the superstars, the all-stars of the weekend. I think they really held the band together. Phil Lesh was on his game, played fantastic. I wasn't in the Phil zone. I was in the taper section, but excuse me, Trey Anastasio played his heart out. I think they could have gave him more wheels. They could have gave him more legs. I saw a few nods from the stage at Bobby, like telling Trey to slow down a little bit. And I think the Garcia sisters, he actually came out after the Santa Clara shows publicly and said, "Hey guys, let the guy play." And he did a fantastic job. I think he sat in, I couldn't have picked anybody else better.
Yeah, because I saw T-shirts that were saying "Let Trey sing."
Yeah, I think they should have let Donna sing. Where was Donna Gaccio? Where was Donna Jean Gaccio? Is my one complaint about the whole weekend. They should have brought her aboard. She should have just asked to come, or she should have just shown up. One of the two. They could have used her help a little vocally.
It's 1450 KMMS, 1340 KPRK. Kenny T of the KGLT Dead Show, Grateful Dead Show, joining me in studio with your phone calls. 406-522-TALK. Caller, thanks for hanging in there. You're on the air. What's your question for Kenny T? Hello, caller.
Oh, hey, is this me?
Yes, that's you, sir.
So I have a question for Kenny. What's next now? Is there anything else that's sort of filling the void for him? Other bands or other activities or anything that, from now the Dead being gone and being gone for a long time, has he found something else that sort of gives him that same feeling?
The fans get a kind of the same feeling as the Grateful Dead as
the concert experience.
Well, I'll tell you, I was just talking to Chris before we were on the air, and I saw Beats Antique the other night at Moods of the Madison, and that band, talk about an improvisational experience like the Grateful Dead put on there. I think they're a San Francisco-based band. I don't really know too much about them, but it's theatrics. There's fire. There's dancing people. There's Egyptian ladies dancing on the stage, and the music behind it is just, part of it, but captivating as well. Fantastic. That's one thing. I know locally that Tom Garnsey, Voodoo Productions, he's going to put on a little Grateful Dead show thing here, and I know that a lot of the fans, the music is meant to be interpreted and played by many different artists. Anybody. I mean, it's kind of fascinating to me how that it's getting picked up, and different bands, genres are playing Grateful Dead songs and dabbling into the Grateful Dead music these days, and you see it everywhere. We're everywhere. If that's what you're saying, if that's what I can get to you.
Sure.
Well, thanks for the phone call, sir.
Thanks. Yep.
You're very welcome. 406-522-TALK, 522-8255. Kenny T, host of the KGLT Dead Show. You can catch it later today from 3 to 6 o'clock, of course, on KGLT. Kenny, my final question for you, and I didn't mean to leave you with such limited time, but how has the music of Jerry Garcia specifically and the Grateful Dead in general influenced your worldview?
Well, I guess, leaving Chicago is a good explanation for that. After leaving Chicago and seeing 80,000 people, deadheads, as Dennis McNally said, all on their A game, strangers stopping strangers just to shake their hands, stopping people to hug one another, stopping for just a second to give a guy in an orange bear suit a T-shirt. It brings the world. If we can all get together like that and love one another, I mean, I think we'd be in a lot better place than we are right now in this world. And, more people should listen to the Grateful Dead.
Well, I mean, there is that communal experience.
Yes,
and it's not just the Grateful Dead. I think music on a whole has the ability to do that.
Yeah, it does. And I would just want to say that every person, that young and old, that never saw the Grateful Dead, that left Chicago field after seeing the Grateful Dead, they can truly say that they had a Grateful Dead experience.
Finally, we have just about 20 seconds left. The show from 3 to 6 today, what do you got on tap?
We got a great show on tap this afternoon. We got Moth, we've got the Sweetbacks, we got Bigsby Jones, and they all did a celebration for the Grateful Dead just the other night at the Eagles. It's a live recording. Their interpretations of Grateful Dead music the way it should be. Thanks so much for having me this afternoon, Chris.
You're very welcome, Kenny. Thank you for your time.
All right.